Game 4 tonight, pivotal for the Pacers, as big as it gets in this series, a chance to go up 3-1. Can they finally win at home? What do they need to change from Game 3? Is this a Knicks doing better thing or a Pacers doing worse thing? And Aaron Nesmith is hurt. What's it going to mean? We'll get to it all today on the Locked On Pacers podcast.
You are Locked On Pacers, your daily Indiana Pacers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What up, y'all? Happy Tuesday and welcome into another edition of the Locked On Pacers podcast, where we, of course, talk about the Indiana Pacers. As always, my name's Tony East. I cover the team for Forbes, and today, Game 4 coming up, huge, massive, pivotal, one of the biggest Pacers games ever, which is crazy to say since the 90s, certainly, as they try to go up 3-1 on the Knicks after a tough Game 3, blowing it late. Was that a Pacers problem? Did the Knicks actually change something? How can the Pacers be better? Kyle Taylor and I dive into all of that today, things that we think are related to the Knicks, things that aren't, why the series is teetering, and of course, the big one. Aaron Nesmith is hurt. What's it going to mean if he plays, if he doesn't, and all sorts of things we dive into there. My plea for you today, if you are watching on YouTube, you might get these recommended to you every day. Please subscribe if you watch in there. I'd really appreciate it. I never ask for that. I would like you to do it today. And I would also like you to listen to this great episode with Kyle Taylor. Let's just get right to it. Did the Pacers play bad? Did the Knicks play better? How much is correctable? How much isn't? It's the constant question. What changes will the Pacers need to make? And oh gosh, a very key starter guarding the other team's best player is hurt. Panic mode or not for the Pacers, who've been very good in Game 4 throughout the playoffs. And I can't do this alone. A big game. He was in the building for it. The tour guide, master of New York City, pizza finder extraordinaire. And you can read him at iPacersblog. Kyle Taylor is here. Kyle, hello. Welcome back to the greatest state in the Midwest.
It's wonderful to be here. I will have all your listeners know that when I met Tony on Wednesday, we went to the same pizza shop that I went to before Game 7 Pacers-Knicks last year. So the good luck charm held. I held up my end of the bargain. We got that win. But unfortunately, when I was in the building yesterday,
wow, you didn't even tell me. Did you tell me that? And I forgot that you said that?
No.
That makes more, get that Game 1. Now that's going to be my memory of Game 1. Not the Haliburton shot bouncing 17 feet into the air, not the missed free throws. It's going to be the slices of pizza I had before the game that sealed the deal for maybe the greatest comeback in NBA history, certainly one of the greatest ones in Pacers history. That's almost a week old now. Modern times, this is how the playoffs go. When you win, you feel like you're on top of the world. The team feels like they can do no wrong. And when you lose, the sky is falling. You're never going to win again. The series is going to end in the minimum possible of games in not your favor. And that is where the Pacers stand right now, fresh off of a Game 3 loss to the Knicks, a 71-45 run to close the game. That's a high number to allow. That's not a number to score. They've got some stuff to solve on both ends. I will generically ask you this before we get into more specifics, because this is kind of what I was asking players at practice today and Rick Carlisle. Do you, Kyle, from Game 3, feel like it was more the Pacers getting away from what they do and not executing the way they want? Or did the Knicks actually do something tangible, strategically, lineup-wise, whatever the answer may be, that got the Pacers out of their rhythm? Because one of those is a lot worse than the other.
I'm going to give you two answers. In Game 3, specifically in the fourth quarter, I thought the Knicks played great defense. There were multiple times I was watching the game and watching, especially Deuce McBride, OG was doing this too, scramble and recover with simply more effort than they had showed in Games 1 and 2. I thought the Knicks defense was very good in the fourth quarter. I also, when I went back and rewatched the game, as I unfortunately did before this podcast, I felt much better about some of the Pacers shots. The Knicks were still not guarding the three-point line very well. Cat was still way too far away. OG was giving up open threes and the Pacers were not taking them. Mismatch hunting was weird. Sometimes it was Pascal gets Josh Hart on him and backs him down and shoots over him. Sometimes it was Andrew Nembhard drives on Deuce McBride. Aaron Nesmith posts up OG Anunoby. Those are not mismatches. Stop. Those are like just sort of boneheaded mistakes that you can't have in a close game. So lackadaisical effort in the end of the first half, and in the third quarter, tons of turnovers opened the door for the Knicks. That's all they needed. The defense stormed through, and I think made a big dent there. I want to give a second answer, though, before I throw it back to you, because this series has been extremely close, but for like a few plays here or there, it could easily be 3-0 Pacers or even 2-1 Knicks. And fundamentally, like a couple shots here or there, I don't think should change how we view the balance of the entire series. And when we zoom out and look at the entire series and the sort of like profile that defines the Pacers offense, I think there is more reason to be concerned. So pick your stat. I don't care. Pace, shot quality, ball movement. I don't care which one you pick. However you imagine the Pacers offensive style, all the stats are screaming the same thing, which is that series over series, the Pacers offensive style has gone from holding up perfectly to maybe the Cavs made some inroads to, oh boy, the Knicks might be causing problems. Let's pick ball movement, because I want to make the point really clearly here. Series 1 against Milwaukee, 345 passes per game. That's a mark that would lead the NBA. Okay, so we start the playoffs with the Pacers moving the ball more than any other team in the league moves the ball. Fast forward to this series, we're at 276 passes per game. That's the same as the Celtics in the regular season. That's the difference between number 1 and bottom 10. And remember, a series that happened not too long ago where a high-profile offensive team got stagnant against the Knicks and gave up 20-point leads because they weren't moving the ball, and then the Knicks' next opponent wasn't going to make that mistake. I have news for Pacers fans. We're making that mistake. We're watching a team make that mistake. And again, I picked ball movement, okay, from number 1 to bottom 10. I don't care which one you pick. If you want to look at pace, it's the same story. You want to look at when the Pacers are taking their shots in the shot clock, it's the same story. They're taking shots way, way later in the shot clock again. Game 3 was even more dramatic than any game they've played in the playoffs. And again, the point of all of this is that in a series so close, zoom out, big picture, I actually am more concerned by the big picture than I am by the small one of Knicks season on the line. They turned up the defensive pressure. Yeah, they're going to do that. Zoom out, Pacers offensive style isn't holding up the way it used to. That's more concerning to me.
Okay, let's tackle first game 3 second half. So OG was like not guarding anybody. Even he was guarding good shooters. He's like on the edge of the paint. He would kind of recover out. That was kind of gooking up the Pacers a little bit. That was the only thing that I tangibly felt like, oh, that feels a little bit different from them defensively, besides just like having their better defenders on the floor down the stretch of that game. And you mentioned intensity. When I think of the Pacers getting out of what they do, the thing I always talk about the most that you have mentioned already is mismatch hunting. They like when another team is switching, for some reason, when they play their worst, they get into it too much. It's like they're like, well, crap, what we're doing isn't working. Let's do this. This guy can score on this guy. And like, yeah, he can. Siakam did that a couple times, but like, it doesn't create as effective of shots, one. And two, they weren't even doing that good of a job of it. It felt like. Here's where the problem was to me. One, you mentioned like hard on Siakam, like that's not that big of a mismatch, but they would get Cat or Brunson on a good ball handler and then bring another screen in or swing it to the other side of the floor. And like, in part, they did a good job mismatch hunting. And then the other part, they're like, oh yeah, we're playing random. Like, let's go. Let's flow to the next thing. It's like, you did it. You did what you were supposed to do. And then you made it harder or got them out of it with a switch. You're bailing them out yourselves. Like that is not what they do or want to do. And so getting back to just principled randomness where mismatch hunting is part of what they do and not the forefront of what they do, I think will be key to getting back a lot of the things you just talked about. Their pace is better. When they're moving better, they get the good shot earlier. They're willing to take it earlier. Like Nesmith turns down an open three, drives for a tough floater. Turner passes up a tough three, has to take a tough three later in the possession. We could count a bunch just from the second half, right? I lean more that they didn't play like themselves more than that the Knicks did anything tangibly so different that should have rocked them to that extent. Not that they did nothing. We can watch the game and go, oh, Jalen Brunson wasn't on the floor way more than he usually is, right? That's like the key thing of it. But a couple, like Shamit's playing instead of Campaign, he's just a little bit bigger. OG was in different spots. All sorts of little things. Great, that's true. But yes, pace is slower, right? That they want to play fast. They always talk about wanting to play faster in the playoffs. They did not for a over half, really, but the significantly bad half of game 3, they didn't do that. They didn't generate good shots. People talked about, they were 5 for 25 from 3. That's terrible. They won't shoot that bad again. One, they didn't generate that great at threes. 2, the fact that they only took 25, a little revealing. That's very low for them. Not a good shooting night in terms of creation or makes. Not something they'll be happy about with their shot quality there. They took a lot of mid-rangers. They kept up in the game because they made quite a few of them, but it just wasn't what they want to do. They got off the ball in the lane instead of getting to the rim or taking floaters that from their best players often go in. So I lean that a lot of that specific game was stuff that they got in their own way, doing and or not doing. That's my long answer to the first part of what you say. To the second part of what you're saying, also agree. There's a reason that this series' margins are so small. A 3-point game, a 5-point game, and a 6-point game kind of tell you the story already that every possession is significant, but the indicators have been tipping towards the Knicks kind of slowly throughout the series anyway. And it was a matter of time in my head before Cat had some good stretch of play because he had not been very good in the first 2 games that really got things going. So there's a lot, even though the Pacers were 5 for 25 and didn't generate anything good, they'll be better at that in the next game, I imagine. I think they'll be better at getting their pace moving. They will be better at identifying what holes to pick at in the Knicks defense. The Knicks didn't shoot that well either. Their offense could be much better. They only scored 106, right? All these, I've been talking for forever. There are a lot of little things that both teams probably feel like they can do better. But game 3 was the first time in the series it was like, the Knicks have control of the game style completely. Their offense has been much better. Some of that is Cat. And even when Brunson came in, he immediately scored. And Deuce McBride's get whatever shot he wants. So there's a lot the Pacers actually have to fix. But fortunately, I think for them, a lot of it starts with them, and it's less problem solving of something the Knicks are presenting them that is like new or fresh or specifically challenging, if that makes sense, even given the history of the series to this point. Everybody, quick break so we can talk about WayFair. The days are getting longer. The weather's warming up and people are spending more time outside, which means it's the perfect time to refresh your outdoor space. Whether you're working with a big backyard or a small balcony, WayFair has everything you need to make it feel more like you. WayFair's magic selection of outdoor essentials makes it easy to transform any space into your ideal summer setup. From comfy conversation sets to sleek dining tables and outdoor decor, they've got it all. And at prices that fit your budget, you can get a new patio dining set and some string lights from WayFair to help extend your outdoor space. They offer a mix of styles to make it easy to find pieces that match your vibe. The delivery, it's hassle-free. And it's free, even for the big stuff. Whether you're entertaining guests or just relaxing solo like me, WayFair helps you unwind. Shop a huge selection of outdoor furniture online this summer. Get outside with WayFair. Head to wayfair.com. That's WAYFAIR.com. WayFair, every style, every home.
Yeah, not new or fresh or specifically challenging, but they are facing the Knicks playing the way they want to play and imposing that on the game. And so it is so important you have to be able to hold 2 thoughts in your mind. On the one hand, this is a race to 4. Nothing else matters. It doesn't matter how you get there. The Pacers won game 1 in one of the greatest games I've ever watched. Tyrese hit one of the greatest shots I've ever seen. I regret not being there in person. It was awesome, but the margins are non-existent. And in the zoom out, who's sort of in the tug of war of style and, play, that one shot and that game is not really definitive in swinging the balance, in this sort of tug of war. Instead, the series as a whole is just sort of edging one way. And again, my point is that it's not like the Cavs made it edge one way, air quotes, edge one way, by playing a 3-2 zone, a very specific thing. And the Pacers solved the problem. In this case, I think there is a little bit more reason to be concerned because it is not one thing. It is not, it's this zone, or with Milwaukee, it's this one lineup and AJ Green inverted actions. This is in many phases of the game, the Knicks are forcing the Pacers later in the clock, slowing them down and possessions for the Pacers are resulting in fewer good shots. And it's this more total again, I think the tug of war is the right way to think about it, as opposed to like a specific obstacle thrust in their path.
I totally agree with that, which leads to the other question on the side of the graphic for you YouTube watchers. And if you're not seeing it, it says, is the adjustment just, quote, play better, unquote? Because I'll speak first here. It's not. Like, it's weird because none of the problems are so significant that it's like, wow, they have to. You just said this. We both just said it. They don't have to change to beat this one thing like they did in other series. They have like a lot of little micro things to figure out. And so that is play better, right? In some ways it is do what you want to do better. But like that requires like a lot of, I don't even know the right way to describe this. That just requires a lot of game plan focus in film study and lots of little things that maybe are a little bit more challenging on the brain, challenging day to day than just like, okay, here's our game plan against 3-2. Here's how we're going to adjust to this. Here's how we think they're going to adjust what they do. Like this is a lot more little things on a possession to possession basis, which to me is actually like a little bit harder to do, even if none of the individual things they're trying to overcome are as significant of challenges, if that makes sense. Do you think, what are you looking at in terms of small tweaks here, play better there, do this thing better, that would go a long way?
Watching game 3 again, I felt there was a pretty big, I mean, the Pacers are always this way. I felt there was a pretty big difference between the offensive process after makes or misses, like live ball situations or dead ball situations. And obviously this is the snowball effect that you've talked about many times. The Pacers off live balls, like initiating their offense off live ball situations, are a buzzsaw. They're awesome. They move the ball up and down the floor really quickly. The chaos that they create in doing so results in advantages all over the court. Miscommunication by the defense leaves shooters open all the time, or someone runs the lane and gets dunked. Okay, great. I've been wondering if in those dead ball situations, again, make or off makes, timeouts, fouls, right? All of these situations. I've been wondering if they need to call more sets. This is like kind of antithetical to the way the team has generally run. But I remember game 1, I'm watching with Knicks fans. Early in the game, we get that skip play. Tyrese throws the ball to Myles. Myles pitches it back. Tyrese goes left to right, sort of in a big, like, arcing drive toward the paint. They run this play all the time. And I remember then they scored off of it. And I said to my Knicks friends, I can't believe you guys weren't prepared for that. They run this play all the time. I think we've seen that play one more time. I don't remember it from game 2. Probably it happened. But they have this, right? This is a play that we all have seen and that works very frequently. And I have wondered if in the muck of the half court offense, if there needs to be like Rick takes the pen back a little bit. Tyrese, I know, took a lot of the blame after game 3, feeling like he didn't do a good enough job initiating the offense, especially in the fourth quarter. I agree with that, by the way. I do not think he did a good job running the offense. He obviously can, but I was left wondering when I was rewatching all of these, no pass pull up middies in the fourth quarter. Again, I was left wondering if maybe there was a role for, another more forceful hand in setting the offensive blueprint beyond just ATOs or, fourth quarter set pieces.
I like that thinking. It's funny to look at Rick during games. You had a chance to, being in the building. I don't know how much you watch Rick Carlisle because
from my seats, Tony, it was a bit hard to see him, but I'll look for him on Tuesday night too, just in case.
He a lot of times is not looking at any one player, but it is just kind of making hand motions, suggesting he's saying like, "Let's go" or like "Speed up."
Yeah, I see this on the broadcast all the time.
Yeah, right. A lot of people can see that even if you're not there. On one hand, that's not calling a play, but that is like a tactical choice he is telling his team to do that everybody identified as a problem after the game, right? Offense took forever, never got good shots, turned down decent to good shots early in the clock with the hope of getting a better one. And TJ McConnell mentioned this today. Like there is a human nature element of being up 20 that just like leads to, I think, a little bit of natural pace decrease. If that makes any sense, like you get a little comfortable in the game, you just kind of can't. It's so easy for us to say you can't do that, but like they've played 1 billion basketball games, right? These are NBA players. I get why that happens to them. These are These two teams playing right now, I heard this stat from Nate Duncan. I have not looked this up myself, but I trust his research because Dan Feldman's like the best in the biz at research, that the Pacers and Knicks are the only two teams ever to have multiple 20-point comebacks in the same postseason, and they're playing each other now, right? Like, it's very unusual that this happens as often as it does. I get why teams get comfortable, but when the Pacers get comfortable, they play not like the Pacers, and it really costs them in this game and series. And so I do get the human element part of it, but maybe there is something to calling a few more plays. The other small thing I would look at or consider as the Pacers when it comes to their pace, their tempo, changes they could make, whatever that could be, can they get a little more Obi Toppin on the floor? He had a lot of zip and pep in his step in game 3. I understand the defensive challenges that come with it. I am suggesting Obi Toppin playing either some of the Tony Bradley minutes. Great job in game 2, Tony Bradley. I'm sorry, nothing in game 3 suggested to me that there should be a lot of this or a consistent amount of this beyond like whatever amount they're willing to rest Myles Turner. Obi just had this pep and pace and like the Knicks don't want to play fast. Like he's default fast. The Pacers just default to speed when he is on the floor. They tried it. It was only 1 minute and 10 seconds. I all caps in my notes. Boop, boop. Turner, Siakam, Toppin all together. Huge and fast. There it is. 1 minute and 10 seconds. Pacers 6, Knicks 4. They never go back to it. I don't know that they'll do that very much. It's not something they do a lot. It's very uncomfortable to play that much out of position. That's a lot of skill. That's a lot of size. That's enough tempo. I think that would help the Pacers be the Pacers a little bit better and help them with the play better stuff and help them against the big Knicks front line. You're putting Obi Toppin in a tough defensive matchup. I'd like to see it a little bit more, and we saw it in game 1. I hope you caught everything I just said because the Palace of Tony Wi-Fi today is not cooperating with my desires to talk about the Indiana Pacers versus the New York Knicks.
We'll get into this in the what happens if Nesmith doesn't play section, but I generally think the Pacers should be leaning offense in some of their rotation decisions. And so, yep, I too would like to see more choices in that vein. And so, yeah, Tony Bradley is trying, man. I mean, he's like, I do think he's giving Mitch at like the best that he can, and partially.
Sorry, wait, I have to stop you. Tony Bradley deserves to play. He's done enough. He should play when Mitch is the center, and Cat is not in the game at all.
That's right.
In Cat moments, that Cat cooking him on that drive in the fourth quarter, everybody was like, "Oh boy, oh god."
Yes. Yeah. I should maybe have made that clearer.
I should have said that too.
Tony Bradley is best, especially when it is like no Cat or Brunson, or just Brunson. But yeah, guarding Towns is not going to happen. I mean, frankly, I don't know if this is worth an extended conversation, but there is a reason that every team for months has been putting wings on Karl Anthony Towns, and it's time for that to be tested more thoroughly. We've had like a couple possessions here or there, and Pascal did have some really nice rotations to block Towns on drives late in the game. If Nesmith can play but doesn't have great lateral mobility, maybe he can body Karl Anthony Towns better. And, we trust other people to guard Brunson. But yeah, Tony Bradley, I am grateful for him. And the Pacers need to play 5 guys who are offensive threats, because when they don't, the other Knicks players collapse the paint, take away more options, and that stalls the whole offense out because the Knicks can afford to show more bodies more of the time and make life harder for the guards.
Okay, let's talk about the thing you just said and use that as a springboard into Nesmith. They can't. Here's the thing. I wondered before the series a lot. My prediction for the matchups was actually that they would go with forwards on Cat. Under the assumption that Tyrese Haliburton is going to start and has to guard somebody. He's going to start the game. And Aaron Nesmith is their choice for Brunson. It has been. It's been their best option the last 2 seasons. They kind of can't, because then they have to put Tyrese Haliburton on something that would just be a disaster, right? With those two yeah, I see you maybe don't agree.
They started the series. They started the series with Tyrese Haliburton on Mikal Bridges.
And they're still doing that. That's fine.
If Nesmith is guarding Cat,
if you put Nembhard on Brunson instead and put Nesmith on Cat, so Turner's on one of Bridges, OG, or it just Haliburton's on something rough, or Turner's in a place that doesn't make sense. It's very hard with both of the decisions of hide the pigeon and put Nesmith here.
Yes, Turner is probably on Mitch. No?
Now actually it might be easier to do the wing on cat thing with Mitch starting. It's tough. That's part of why I was wrong in thinking that they might go back to Nembhard on Brunson. As I was like, well, if they're going to put a wing on cat like everybody's done, and now Josh Hart's not starting, so it's not as like relevant of a strategy. It's a lot different in what's going on. This is the concluding part of this. Aaron Nesmith, Rick Carlisle said, game time decision. He's listed questionable. Everybody's already done he came back in the game. He's obviously going to play. Is this the first time you've seen an ankle injury in your life? Like, this happens all the time. Guys are like, I'm good. My ankle's good. And then the next day it looks like a golf ball and they're not good. I don't know what the deal with Aaron Nesmith is. Maybe he plays, maybe he doesn't. That dude, if there is a 1% chance he'll play, he's one of the few guys that I actually believe would be possible that he plays, right? He will do everything he can. Regardless of that, this is a big deal because Aaron Nesmith is good, full stop. This is the biggest deal because of what we just said. He is guarding Jalen Brunson. The entire operation of the Pacers' defensive plan for the series completely changes if he can't play because now someone different is guarding this guy and that guy, and the way you're defending this guy with this two-man up, that is a huge change. Even though obviously Nesmith has a lot of wing offensive advantages that no other wing playing for him has. We've seen that with Shepard being willing to dribble more than like one or two times in a row this series, even though he's been fine. That is, I think, the biggest loss they would deal with if they lose him, and is a huge deal. Huge deal.
Yes. The question is fundamentally Ben Shepard or Ben Mathurin if Nesmith can't go. I have been, I figured you would ask me about this, and I've been waffling all day. I went for a walk. I mulled it over. Ben Shepard with the starters, they have played 38 minutes together the whole season, 38 minutes.
Wow. With
Shepard instead of Nesmith. 448 with Mathurin instead of Nesmith. We saw that group together for months, in December and January. I want to be very clear about this. I think Ben Mathurin has been neither good nor bad. I have not felt his presence at all in the playoffs, apart from an ejection, sparking a 40-point halftime lead against Cleveland. Still, on the basis of the entire season's body of work, I probably would lean Ben Mathurin. I think either decision is completely justifiable. Which way do you go?
Bennedict Mathurin had a very good half in the second half of a Cleveland game that was already decided. I think that was his best basketball half of the playoffs, which is also challenging for his case of great or poor play. I would lean Mathurin as well for a completely different reason than you, although what you said does make sense. And I advocated for a while, hey, I would not have changed the starting five. And then Ernest was like, screw you, Tony. I'm way better than last year. I should obviously be starting. Okay, yes, good job, Aaron Nesmith. You're a very good player. I would start Mathurin because the bench with McConnell and no Mathurin functions like kind of well. Like that was a very successful group in the second half of game 2 when it was McConnell, Shepard, Siakam, Bradley, and they actually used Nesmith and Turner with that group. Obviously, Nesmith is not an option, but like to start the fourth quarter, that was the best stretch they've had, like of mix and match groups, maybe of the entire series. And Siakam was cooking as part of it. They had a lot of spacing as part of it. But we also saw this down the stretch of last season after Mathurin tore his labrum. McConnell could just kind of cook a little more. It's less dangerous for him to be dribbling around for 18 seconds because he was off the ball. He's a zero. If Mathurin's not there, that is why I would do it, because you're minimizing the time of those two overlapping with the second unit in that case and giving yourself a chance to, air quotes, make up. You're not making up for Nesmith's absence if he doesn't play. He's very good. But like to make it less of an issue if your bench units are better or if the mix and match groups you have there are better. And I guess we are trying to make up for it in this fake exercise because we're assuming he's not playing and trying to assign another starter. So I would also start Mathurin, but I think Shepard's probably one of the first subs anyway. Get back to that group quickly. I'd actually think Shepard and McConnell would be the first two subs in that case.
Yeah, I think two more things are worth pointing out. One is that bench groups with Mathurin or Nembhard, who've been playing, both of them have been playing a lot with the bench. Those units have been pretty bad. And they've been bad in the playoffs. They were bad in the regular season. They're bad. They keep being played. This is one way to avoid that in part. And also, if the only options to guard Jalen Brunson are Ben Shepard and Andrew Nembhard, then you don't want them overlapping.
Good point.
You want them separate. And you can obviously start both guys and then sub one off very quickly and keep it, sort of back and forth that way. But if Rick is not going to try, I think Jarris would be the most likely next candidate in the list. If he's going to stick with the guys who've guarded him and Nesmith isn't available, the other reason I'd start Mathurin is to keep Ben Shepherd and Andrew Nembhard separate so that one of them is always on the floor.
And the next guy behind those two to guard him in this fake no Nesmith instance is probably Mathurin, right? Unless they do what you said and go to Jarris. But
I'd go to Jarris before I'd go to Mathurin.
Wow.
The screen navigation is the issue for me. I would even be tempted, crazy idea, to throw Ben on Cat for some possessions, because at least Ben's going to fight, and it's going to be like a straight up. Yeah, Ben Mathurin.
Yeah.
Because he's going to like fight in a one-on-one straight up situation, and that's kind of what I trust him to do, as opposed to the like get over the screen and stick with a slithery guard, which I don't trust him to do.
I like that. That's cool. Put him on OG. That's not a bad plan. If that's
that would be my other spot for Mathurin.
Yeah. And in the starting five, that's actually feasible. Like that would actually slide in pretty well with the shifts they'd have to make. So then Siakam ends up on, oh yeah, that makes sense, on Cat, and then Turner's on Mitch, or vice versa. Yeah, that would work.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. For the many reasons we have discussed, I wonder what they'll do, because we've seen Rick Carlisle be like, oh, problem, I'm hitting the Ben Shepherd button for like 6 months. So it's very possible that just the default is Shepherd. Shepherd started in the conference finals last year when there was a major injury. Remember that? That was a real thing I had to say out loud. Tyrese Haliburton's out. Ben Shepherd is starting. That was a real thing that happened in like games that were competitive. I think Mathurin would be my choice as well. If Nesmith plays, I'd still be curious what percent of Nesmith there is, because even that might be a guy you want to take off of Jalen Brunson. I don't know.
I agree. That's why I was saying earlier, maybe you throw Nesmith on Cat, because like, again, I'm just not sure. Like the question is not just will Nesmith play, it's will he play and be effective?
Yeah.
And if he's not effective laterally, I'm not sure he's sticking with Brunson, and then we're in the same dilemma we're talking about right now.
Can't believe Knicks Pacers is getting marred by injuries. That never happens. That's not cool. I have been thrilled to see the health of these teams through 3 games be largely very good. It has made for some entertaining basketball. Did we miss anything on your very important notes from game 3 or for the series?
No, we didn't. My final point is the, it's a race to 4, but in analyzing the tug of war, you have to take every possession into account. And this is where I am. I've been called a curmudgeonly pessimist and the wet blanket of the Locked On Pacers podcast. So, I'm doing my thing here, but
I asked you to.
The stylistic tug of war is more concerning in the data than I thought it was. And I was already like, this feels a little worse. And the numbers are like, no, it's much worse.
Perfect on brand finish.
Yeah. And you can find me at the game tomorrow, pulling my hair out from the balcony to see if they can make this 3-1 instead of 2-2.
Well, you know what they say, Kyle, a series doesn't start until the home team wins or something like that. That's where this series is headed so far. The Knicks have a losing record at home in the playoffs. The Pacers have won 6 in a row on the road. Whoever can buck that trend will be feeling very good very soon. Will it be the Pacers tonight? Will it be the Knicks on Thursday? This game might come back to Indy. We'll see. The series might come back to Indy. We'll see. It's been 2 very close teams on paper playing very close basketball games. I cannot wait for game 4. It will be the telling one. Will the Pacers keep their pattern going of win-win, loss-win something, or will something else happen? Kyle, thank you so much for the time. I hope you enjoyed your 1 month without me begging you to come talk to me about the Pacers. Where can people find you and the things you say when you're not talking to only me?
Well, as I said, in the balcony of the 200 sections for game 4, but if not there, then on the forever broken Twitter X app. Just, talking about the Pacers.
Has every single feature broken in the last week?
Yeah, I think so.
My DMs broke the day after I met you. The DMs broke, which would have been terrible timing one day earlier. Notifications are still broken today. My timeline and other people's, when I go to them, doesn't work. Whatever. Kyle, thank you so much for the time. We had tech issues today too. I'm very mad at tech today. I had to deal with Caitlin Clark getting hurt on my day off of not fever Pacers games for the first time in 6 days, and again for the next time in 6 days. It's been a lot, and I can't wait for game 4. Thank you all so much for listening. You can find me on Twitter and Blue Sky at Tony Ariz. This podcast is on Instagram and Twitter at Locked On Pacers. Thank you all so much for listening today. We'll see you after game 4.